Hey guys, John coming at you with a Watcher of Realms video. Now, I am joined with my good friend Ivylee Gaming. If you do not know Ivy and this scene, you definitely need to go check her out. I just did a collab with her on her channel. That's going to be a really fun one where we talk about basically like our three favorite characters, one that we really would love, and also one that we just think looks amazing. It's a great video. Definitely go check it out. Go give her a follow, subscribe to her as well. But we are going to talk about the tower defense type genre with Watchers of Realms, how it feels playing it for both of us having a main primary background in the gacha realm, right? Not so much the PV or not so much as the tower defense realm, and overall in general, just kind of the aesthetic, how it feels, and what our initial thoughts really were with it. Because I know a lot of people in my community come more from the gacha side of things versus the tower defense side of things. So Ivy, thank you so much for coming in, and yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is definitely a hot topic, and it's definitely the word tower defense seems to have a stigma to most gacha gamers. Even though it is a gacha at the end of the day, it's got all the same elements. This is Raid Shadow Legends, but a gacha, or sorry, but a tower defense. Really, at the end of the day, and I was one of those people. This is my first tower defense game properly,
Mhm.
and I was one of those people that heard tower defense and was like, nah, I don't think I'd like that. What about you?
Yeah, so it was funny. So I didn't know Watchers of Realms was a tower defense. I literally I saw you were playing it, I saw Dan was playing it, and I known you guys for years. I don't know if you guys are playing a game, you're covering it. It's got to be fun. It's got to be enjoyable to you guys. So it's like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Like I needed a gotcha. I needed some sort of a gotcha at the time. I was doing too much Diablo. I was doing too many like AAA PC games. I'm like, I need a good mobile game, right? Got to separate it. Had no idea it was a tower defense, and I opened it up and I was like, "Oh, this is a tower defense. This isn't going to be good. Oh man!" And then I started playing it. It's like the stigma of, "Oh, it's a tower defense, so it's going to get boring, or it's just whatever. Like place the best heroes and everything will sort itself out." Like, no, there's a lot of strategy that goes into this that is different. Like it's very different. I feel like from like Raid or Ace or those types of games, where in those games you really just care about the champion, right? Not so much their placement, their timing, when you proc certain skills as much. Like, for in most games, you just let them run on auto and you're good to go, right? In this game, it's twofold. You have more engagement, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. That was my initial thoughts when I first started playing was that it was more fun than I expected for sure, but I was also worried. I was like, is it too much? Like, is it too hard? Is it going to be too
Yeah.
hard? Because it is like Raid, Eternal Evolution, all like the auto kind of battlers, the or the turn-based gacha games
Yeah.
are so much easier than this. They just are.
Oh yeah,
You
for
can
sure.
you can all you have to do is have the right heroes, and sometimes you can set the AI a little bit, like Raid you can, or
Hmm.
even in Ace for the you could set the order that you attack bosses or
Yep.
whatever. That's it, and you can walk away. This you can't walk away when you're trying to progress. At least you have to manually be there, and every split second matters.
Oh
And that
yeah.
could be too much for some people, right? I think it was a little bit intimidating at first because I realized that it's not like I can just try a run and look away while I'm doing something else. Like you have to be in the moment when you're pushing campaign. Now, of
Oh yeah.
course, like you're doing now,
Oh, it's
you're
totally fine.
doing runs, you can
Yeah.
fully auto grind,
Yep.
but the actual progression to get to higher places takes full concentration. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be ready for that. Like it was
Right.
intimidating.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely takes a totally different mindset, right? Because we get used to this auto battling that we're used to, and in games like these, when you're trying to beat it for the first time, you can't do that. And I've actually caught myself a lot of times where like I'm notorious for I like to watch like TV while I'm playing games. Like I got to have something up in the background, like I'm catching up on One Piece or whatever, and I'll look over to see what's going on, and I forget. Oh crap! I'm doing a campaign battle. I got a proc ability. Dang it! Oh man, so it makes you engage a little bit more, but I actually like that aspect because I feel
Me
like a lot of the
too.
times when we play like our normal gotchas, right, we don't have to think as much, so we just click buttons. Oh, I failed. Okay, well, let me swipe my credit card a little bit, and oh, now we're good. And this, it's let's just place characters in a different location and like do a little bit more strategy, and boom, you're done, and it keeps you more engaged. I feel like you learn how to play these games a lot better than other games because it does force you to be kind of engaged, right?
Yeah, and I think I kind of like that it's the type of thing where you can't just spend your way to success. If you
Correct.
don't, no matter how good your characters are, they can be fully awakened in the best gear possible. Well, no, they can't be in the best gear possible because you're never going to
Yeah,
get
you're
to
never gonna
those
get there. Yeah.
dungeons
Yep.
if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't take the time to learn. I like that it really does force you, even the biggest of whales with the best characters possible, you have to learn how to place, when to use ultimates, and I really yeah, I like the challenge. It's been a really fun challenge.
Oh yeah. Yep. I definitely agree with that. It's been very and it feels very rewarding too, right? Like it's one of those because
Exactly, when you
like
finally clear that thing you've been stuck
yeah,
on for a week.
yep, exactly. And you're like, oh yeah, I did it. This is awesome. Or you can complete it, but you can't 3-star complete it. Which at most games, if you can't
Yeah.
3-star complete something, who cares? Like you just keep running it, right? In this game, until you 3-star complete it, you don't get an auto fight. So it's like even more rewarding when you get the 3-star clear and you're like, oh, I can use auto fight now and farm it, right? Like so it's
Yep.
so more satisfying, I feel anyways, because of that. And also the gearing system that comes along with this type of a tower defense game is very interesting. And I don't know if this is normal. So community, if you guys want to leave a comment down below, I don't know if the way they do the gearing here is normal for this type of a genre, but I feel like it synergizes kind of well. At first, I didn't like it. At first, I hated the way the gearing was because I didn't like that I couldn't take purples up to 12 or whatever. Like, have that
Oh,
couple of
yeah, it's
exception
limited.
rules, right? So it's limited. They
Mhm.
lock it down. So it's like, oh, I don't like that. But now as I'm getting used to it, I'm doing more character builds and whatnot. I'm like, oh, well, this works out really well. And kind of plays into the whole once again where you're thinking more of how the disease works, right? Because in tower defense games, crit rate is great, right? Everyone loves to have crit rate on their champions, but there's also like rage regen and attack speed, right? Like these in themselves have a totally different mechanic than what I would say we're used to personally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I,
it's kinda got a weird combination of the gearing systems of something like Raid, but then it has different aspects almost like because it's like so semi-auto as it I don't know how to say, what do you call them? Where it's like you're always auto attacking with like a basic attack, like
oh yeah,
Eternal
yep,
Evolution or something.
yep,
It's not a turn-based game. It's got that like you're always hitting, but then you can choose when to use your ultimates. I feel like it's
right.
a surprisingly fun blend of a lot of games, but tower defense style.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. And also this guild boss is kind of neat. I love the concept of it.
Oh, I love it.
So
Yeah.
I absolutely hate how like on Raid and other games, well actually Raid just fixed it, but where like you could play a guild boss for 30 plus minutes, like depending on how you did it.
Yeah, it's not too
I
bad.
absolutely hated that.
Here.
But this is like, oh, it's a time limit and whatever you get is what you get. Like, okay, that's great. That's a great feeling. And then the mechanics of it are cool. Like they're not
Yeah, I love
you
it.
know, it's just overall in general, I really like the concept of it. And then the rewards are astronomical. Like I've gotten a couple of really good summons out of it. Actually, I think my set room, the shard that I used to get him, came from doing the guild boss. Like, so it was just kind of
Nice.
fun where like I got to enjoy it a lot more. And yeah, overall in general, it's been really neat because of once again placement comes into play because this is a tower defense type game and it's not just about, oh, I have this team for this guild boss. Like every person has to be strategically placed to make it work, right?
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting about this as a tower defense that I think maybe is part of the reason people are turned off by is almost every other one I've seen is like that anime style,
Yeah.
like the cutesy or chibi style,
Yep.
and none of like Arc Knights and whatever. And most people, okay, not most people, Western gamers don't like that usually. It's just not as common. We like the dark fantasy, fancy graphics. Most people that are in our community from Raid, from Summoner's Glory, Awakened Chaos Era, Infinite Magic Raid, we're all dark fantasy people.
Yep.
So I think the idea that this actually has the dark fantasy graphics might make some people more apt to try it that would never look at Arc Knights, you know?
Oh, for sure. And I think that's also huge. Like it's the like any mobile game, right? There's a lot of mobile games out there that have been pretty good. However, if you don't take the time and do the good artwork and you don't put the work in as far as like making it visually pleasing, people don't stick with it, right? Like no one wants to play a game that looks like some
Hmm.
blobs. Like, oh, this is cool strategy, but this is really boring to watch, right? Like, but when you make characters
Yeah,
that you do very good detail, like Raid, for example, I think that's one of their staples is their graphics. Like they're
exactly.
superb, right? This game actually kind of competes, honestly. Like it competes graphically with them. Now, I do absolutely hate like this camp. Like I hate the way this is laid out. It reminds me of like, oh,
That
we're gonna
actually
go.
looks cheesy compared to the rest of the
Yeah,
game.
that's
That
why
was
I
one of my
felt.
first turnoffs.
Yep. Yeah.
Honestly,
That's.
yeah, when all these games came out, that was like this one looked the cheesiest to me at first,
Mm-hmm.
on first impression, before I even actually opened it, I mean, because I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I don't know, it looks a little bit the interface, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I saw this, and I was like, "Well, this is going to be a
I
boring
agree.
game." Okay, and then I kept playing it. It's like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. Oh, this is
Yep. It
interesting."
surprised me.
Yeah, so it took a turn, which was great, but it's just yeah, the initial impression. Like you would think for the amount of work and detail they put in, that they would have a better like home UI type system here. But yeah, overall in
That's
general though,
funny. Dragonair did that too. Did you notice?
yep, yep,
They had a terrible interface before CBT2, and I was like begging them to change it. It was the
oh yeah,
campground looked terrible. I was like, this is so bad. The rest of your game's beautiful. You gotta make the campground look better. Like, this is the first thing that people see. It's the thing they see the most sometimes. That needs to look good.
yeah, and that's so it's funny you mentioned that. I actually mentioned that to them as well because they offered or they had me come play it ahead of time. It's like, oh, cool, and then I was like, oh, this is cheesy. Like this is horrible. But
It looked like old graphics.
oh yeah, for sure. But then it was a decent game overall. But I definitely think you can't judge a book by its cover when it comes to this game because it does feel nice. It
Yeah.
does play nice. The animations aren't quite cheesy like you would expect looking at the camp, so it's great. I've actually been really enjoying it altogether. Would you say, like coming from your perspective, right? Because you've played probably just as much Gacha as I have. Do you like this concept of the tower defense, or how are your like overall feelings about it at the moment?
Yeah, I think I was like most people. I heard tower defense and I'm like, no, thank you. But then I actually played it and now I really like it. And now my mind is more open to tower defense games in the future. This definitely took away my initial impression of tower defense being, I don't know. I don't even know what I really felt. For some
Yep.
reason, I saw a few. That didn't look appealing to me. But maybe that is part because a lot of them just kind of look bad. Like there's not a lot of ones that look good, and this one
Yeah.
actually does. And that is true. It's kind of part of it at the end of the day. And that's, I think you said you found the same thing. Our communities,
Hmm.
everyone says the same thing. It's like, nah, tower defense. I don't normally like tower defense. Then you're like, well, try it.
Yeah.
And then they
Just
do.
try
And then
it.
they say, I don't like tower defense, but I like this game. Seems to be a very common phrase out of everybody. Everyone says it. My bucket said it happened to him early on too.
Oh yeah.
Everyone said the same thing.
Yep. No, I can definitely agree with that. It's definitely grown on me. I'm loving it. I definitely would recommend anyone who's watching this who comes from the gotcha background to at least give it a try. Honestly, it took me about 2 hours of gameplay, and I was like, "Oh, this is fun! Like this is actually engaging and fun." And I like games like this that do make me think a little bit more because as we get older, you kind of need to use your brains a little bit more, So, and it definitely does that. It definitely it makes you think of things because it's not just the one aspect of your champions; it is the whole aspect of an entire battle of knowing where to sacrifice your pawns at, so that way you can then replace them later in a correct timing and stuff like that. And it's very enjoyable that I'm finding. So I would definitely recommend everyone else check it out just to see kind of how they feel about it. So,
Yeah, I
um,
agree. It's been fun.
oh yeah, for sure. So it sounds like we're once again pretty in sync as far as our opinions on this, which is great. So I'm sure if anyone has ever watched me, anyone who's ever watched Ivy, if you've enjoyed any of the games we've played, this is definitely going to be one of them. I think it's going to be right up your alley as well. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I think I would add that this does feel like it has longevity. Like it
Okay.
does. So
Yep.
we've played so many games that you're just like, oh, this is going to be another bad raid copy that doesn't last long. But this
Right.
really feels like it has longevity. But you know why? Part of that is Moonton is a $4 billion company. They put Plarium to shame. This money
They
can
got the
afford the
budget.
advertising.
Yep.
They've got the budget. They're gonna make it good. They're gonna, if there's things wrong, they can improve it. and they're going to
Yep.
bring in new players like a lot of other games can't afford to do marketing wise. So I think this one might be around to stay as long as they don't do something to really piss off the community. Even if they do, they'll be like Raid. Everyone's pissed off in Raid for the past 3 years, but
But they're
new
still
players
playing it.
still keep coming in, don't they?
Yep, exactly. They're still playing it, and they still new players. Okay, well they must be doing something right, right?
Yep.
So
I think they'll be all right. I think they're doing good.
yep. No, and I definitely agree. I'll second that nature because I was actually just talking with someone else about this. Like, hey, what's the longevity? And a lot of these games we'll play and we'll say, like Ace, for example. When I loaded up Ace, it's like this has got about a year and a half. And what did it have? About a year, and it kind of just fell off, right? This game, I can't predict that. Like, it feels like it'll go the distance. So I definitely would agree with that. But all right, well, thank you so much for coming on the channel, Ivy. I greatly appreciate it. And guys, I will leave links down below to all of her channels. That definitely go give her a follow. Hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't hurt you to go subscribe to her. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and doing collab with me.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.